Welcome back, everyone. Welcome back. How is everybody doing? Today I'm picking up on the topic of white South Africans and these issues attending to whatever alleged allegations and complaints that they have with South Africa in general. And so I've been thinking about this a lot. It's been a very sad and morbid discussion actually, because of the realities that are coming out of this issue. Because clearly white South Africans are not oppressed in South Africa. They are not. And they are the most privileged group in South Africa. I did a couple of videos a few days ago with regards to this. You can go check that, where I was asking them in terms of what exactly it is that they want. And my current video is just a suggestion of saying this might be actually what is happening based on the historical context in the past 80 years and why apartheid was put into place to begin with. And the nature and the tenor of the complaints that white South Africans have right now. So, so without further ado, let's go into that. Okay, folks. To begin my discussion and my commentary, I'm going to go into an interview that Professor Thuli Madonsela, former public protector of South Africa, which is one of the institutions that are meant to defend and protect the country from abuses from the state. She had an interview with Newsroom Africa, which is one of the cable news networks in South Africa, if you are not from South Africa. And they asked her in terms of what does she think these white complaints and AfriForum spearheading them mean, actually. Like, what is the root of these complaints? And she answered in this fashion. I'm just going to play the short response, and then I'm going to also share the link below in the comments if you want to watch the rest of the interview. I'm going to play it as audio. She was asked in terms of what is the meaning and the source, where do these complaints come from? And this is what she said.
I think AfriForum is struggling with the reality of being ordinary. Because the new South Africa requires all of us to be ordinary. Whereas colonialism and apartheid made white people special people. And Justice Cameron writes in one of his articles about how he was lost among whites because he was from a poor family and his father was in jail. But the one thing that gave him solace was that at least he wasn't black. And I think ordinary white people find solace in the fact that they were not black. Now that in the new South Africa they are ordinary, I think some white people, and AfriForum in particular, is seeking to reverse the wheel and find some reason to be special again. And they seem to have found an ally in the American president. And clearly, that is neither compatible with social justice nor compatible with human rights, as we celebrate Human Rights Month in South Africa, which is resonant with the Universal Declaration of Human Rights that requires everyone to be treated as an equal.
So I will end it right there. She alleges that AfriForum and some white South Africans are struggling with being ordinary. Being ordinary. And being ordinary means that they do not have special rights above the rest of South Africans. They do not have special protections. They need to fend for themselves just like everyone else, and they need to, and they are only entitled to state protections that are afforded to every other South African. I think Prof. Tuli Madonsela here, on a balance of probabilities, she is more right than she is incorrect. And the reason being that there are quite a few reasons. One of them being that what she is saying is in line, for instance, with the nature of the complaints that white South Africans give in these online platforms, or when we meet with them about what is the issue with South Africa, why they think they are oppressed, number one. And number two, it is also in line with regards to why apartheid was put in place to begin with. Apartheid was put in place to begin with to solve one simple problem. And what was that problem? White poverty in South Africa. After the gold rush and the developing and growing of Johannesburg and Pretoria, and the spreading of these cities, it became very clear to the white minority Afrikaners at the time, including English, that there were quite a number of them who were poor and who were living in poverty and who were living in squalor conditions. And this became a serious source of consternation among white South Africans. This is in the early 1900s, to the point where that the white South Africans and Afrikaner South Africans came to have a bargain that regardless of whatever their differences were, of which there were many, they can agree that we're going to protect each other. At the very least, we're going to protect each other from ever being subject to poverty in this place. And we're going to create a state and a place where no white person is going to live without dignity. And then all of these laws that were put in place were with regards to insulating white South Africans from poverty, insulating them from unemployment, insulating them from homelessness, and insulating them from a lack of dignity, which is a state that many poor people across the world, regardless of color, race, or creed, live in. One of the things is that you lose your dignity. So the works that I can actually cite for you with regards to this is a book that I actually read at University of Cape Town as a part of a reading material for a course that I did for economic history, titled Poverty in South Africa, Past and Present. The author is Colin Bundy, who is a history professor, white guy, and he goes through the history of poverty in South Africa and why the issue of elimination of white poverty was at the heart of apartheid. To the point that by the time we go to 1960, 1965, all white South Africans had achieved employment. When I'm saying all white, I'm talking about all whites who were of working age, who were looking for a job. White South Africans had actually achieved full employment. And then from 1965 to onwards, the white minority government was just working to consolidate their gains of saying that their people will be protected and insulated from ever experiencing poverty, experiencing homelessness, and experiencing unemployment. And one of the things was that the social welfare in South Africa was particularly about the protection of white people. This is well documented. I said I'm going to put the full citation of this book in the comments below so that people can read and also go see the bibliography, because this is an academic book that is well cited, well referenced. And to say that I read it at university must tell you that this is not just some fly-by-night book that some people just thumb-sucking shit to them saying. This is the historical record. And because even those parastatals that are for development finance, they were built in particular to fund white business. And a lot of parastatals like Sasol and all of these other ones that were started, they were started to give employment to white South Africans. And they actually had a well-oiled machine. And because of this, they then felt that they were special, in the sense of saying that at the very least they were not black. Meaning that even any one of them who was not economically active, they won't be homeless, because the government will make sure that none of them was homeless. Even those of them who are not economically active would have food on the table, because the government will make sure that they have food on the table. Any one of them that didn't have clothes, the government will make sure that, even if it's not new clothes, it was an effort to give them dignity at the expense, obviously, of the 85% indigenous population. Because while they were doing all of this, spending so much on white education, spending so much on white social welfare, spending so much on white housing, they were not spending on the majority of the South Africans. So then the elections at that time were just about a competition of who is going to provide better services for